Hello and welcome to Chronological Clone Wars, presented by the Podawakens, part of the Logjam Media Podcast Network. My name is Jordan, and with me on his first watch of the Clone Wars, Logan. Harry T. Logan.
Uh, Jordan, the force feels off today. I feel there's a disturbance in the force
Huh.
with these coming episodes. I don't know what it is, but something's up.
Something's up. Somebody's
Yeah.
back from the dead.
Right? Yeah. It's unbelievable. I can't believe Han Solo is coming back. It's a great
Yeah. Can you imagine
way
Han
out of
Solo with
context.
the spider legs?
Like,
After he fell on
I guess,
Starkiller Base, he's like,
yeah. I was guessing, yeah, he's gonna need like a metal intestinal because
yes.
that's where he gets stabbed, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That's where Benjamin decides to go. But no, Jordan, the disturbance in this force was real, and my goodness, did uh, we got something that I've been waiting for so long, Jordan.
Yeah.
It's wild because I'm sitting there watching. What was it? When was it when Phantom Menace get released? It was
99, 25
wow.
years ago.
So I've been waiting 25 years for this moment right here.
Yeah. Should have watched the cartoons a little sooner, huh?
Right. Yep.
So
Jar
you
Jar
knew
Binks.
you had heard he came back, right?
Yes.
So when did you hear that? And like, what was your first thought when you hear he came back?
Honestly, it took me till I was watching Ahsoka to know that he was back.
Really? Yeah, because you didn't
Because
watch Solo.
right, nope, because I
And I
hadn't
know that's
watched.
going to sound silly, but he does
Yeah,
appear in Solo.
yeah, because I hadn't watched Solo until after Ahsoka. Because I was like on this bench of like, shoot, I haven't watched Rogue One,
Yeah.
Solo, or and I had it was like while I was getting ready to do Andor too, because I'd watched Ahsoka, and honestly, like I didn't know until that because then people started tweeting about Ahsoka more, and then that brought up Clone Wars, and then you start to see Darth Maul, and yeah. So, and then of course as one does, you type in Darth Maul Clone Wars, and then his character pops up, and you're like, oh, okay. Now, what I will say, I never did see his appearance, and it was just his face up. So I had never
You
seen.
never saw the spider legs.
Oh, I had no idea. So I was like, I wonder how this happens. So
Yeah. Because I'll tell you, when I heard he came back, my first thought was,
forcing it.
yeah, because I'm like, we saw him get chopped in half. Like, how do you
Yeah.
survive that? They work around it, right? And the stuff that comes afterwards with Maul is good enough that I'm like, okay, I'll let you have that. But it's funny because a lot of people will get upset that like Reva and Obi-Wan get stabbed, right, and
Yeah.
survives, and so does the Grand Inquisitor, and so does Sabine and Ahsoka and stuff. I'm like, yeah, stabbing though. Nobody was really upset when Darth Maul got chopped in half and came back 10 years later. Like,
Right.
that is and that was a lightsaber that cut him in half. Yeah, I don't know. I guess you have to just hit them in the right spot when you kill them, or just go for the head, like Thanos said.
Right. Yeah.
That's probably what you have to do to be able to beat anybody with a lightsaber at this point. Poor Qui-Gon. If he could have just held on a little longer, they probably could have saved him.
Yeah, I know. Just put your like tie something around him,
Yeah.
or just cut off wherever where the stab was just below it. Like
But
just
lightsabers cauterize anyway, so it's not like he's
right.
bleeding out. I mean, anyway. That was my first thought of it. That was before I watched the show. I was hearing that he's coming back. I remember people always wanting him to come back, and I'm like, what? Like, he's dead. That wouldn't make any sense. Little did I know. Little did I know. Now, what I will say is, Star Wars has been pretty good at letting characters stay dead. There really is just a few that have seemingly come back from the dead. Somehow Darth Maul returned. Somehow Palpatine returned. Right? Like, we get those two are like the big ones. But like Obi-Wan has stayed dead, right? Qui-Gon has stayed dead. Darth Vader has stayed dead. Like, a lot of these characters have stayed dead. Han Solo has stayed dead. So they've been a little better at it than like comic books. Comic books will endlessly resurrect people, and that's why like anybody that wants to, people want them to resurrect Tony Stark, and I'm like, no, you don't, because like that meant something. He did his thing. He died. You do not need to mess with that. That's where comics go wrong, is being like, well, he actually, here's one from an alternate universe that will instead live here now, and here's his past, and it's like we don't need to do that. Darth Maul. When I actually watched the episodes, these two that we're talking about, it worked for me. It clicked, and it's been fun kind of seeing him pop up. I wanted to share this because this is fun. Um, in this book, I don't have it with me right now. I have the one about the original trilogy, but there's one about making the prequel trilogy. And they had an interview with George, or like the guy who researched it, talked to George Lucas, of course. Happy 80th birthday, George. And he said that for his original sequel trilogy ideas, before he sold to Disney, I don't know if you know this, Logan, the villain for the sequel trilogy was going to be Darth Maul. And it was going to be his apprentice, Darth Talon, Talon, who was like a female Twi'lek,
Oh.
who would have, she's from the comics. And that was going to be the villains of the sequel trilogy. So I thought that was interesting because I thought that was, I mean, how it was supposed to be like not long after episode 6. I think. I don't think he means like before, like right before he sold to
Mm-hmm.
Disney. I think he means like if he was going to do it after the prequels or something. I don't know, because it was supposed to be like he said Luke would be still building the academy, Leia would still be trying to set up the Republic and stuff. So it'd be like it seemed like it would be fairly quick after the events of Return of the Jedi or something. But just thought that was interesting that Darth Maul would be around for that long in George's vision for
Mm-hmm.
doing this, and after he originally killed him off in Episode 1. My whole thought was always what they should have done is have Darth Maul be the main Sith apprentice for Episodes 1, 2, and 3, and not have Count Dooku. And I think that could have probably worked better for people because you would have had the same villain across all three.
Yeah.
But what do I know? What are your thoughts about hearing that George was thinking about Maul as a villain of the sequels?
Yeah, I think keeping him around. Yeah, like I think you're right. That keeping around for the sequels would have been good. Keeping around for the prequels would have, like, I think all of it. I think all of keeping him as a main character throughout, probably what, three of the movies that he would probably have grouped him in, to follow. So yeah, no, I think I especially agree with you on the like past Phantom Menace, because you really did start to establish, okay, here's this Mystique kind of character. That's the word I was looking for. Um, but it was like he's got this aura about him where he's evil. He doesn't say much. You know he's evil. He's very like ninja like. Like he's almost spider like the way that he kind of bounces around. And I always thought that he was much more like ninja karate mixed, much more into like martial arts than the Jedi, which is why he was able to take on two or three Jedi at one point. But yeah, I think establishing him to go Phantom Menace, Attack the Clones, um, and then Revenge of the Sith, I think that would have been cool to have him around in that Revenge of the Sith being, Palpatine and also Anakin, and Anakin being influenced, and Anakin having to kill Darth Maul. That would have been cool. I think it'd have been a lot more fun to have Anakin go through that, because you would have established Maul, and because he does talk, that it would have been. I don't know. I think what you said, but then I think they thought, okay, well, we need more of a savvy Sith. Like we need more of a, Darth Maul was more of the assassin. We need more of like a big picture, similar to Palpatine. Could overthrow Palpatine if he wanted to. Probably wanted to, and they went with Dooku because I don't know, because I guess they thought, the intellect and the. But again, I like you said, I think that Maul could have, if you establish a villain for three movies, you grow more like hatred for him, which is why I think Marvel succeeds in what they do, because they were able to establish bigger characters across more movies, affecting more storylines. Where Maul, he really didn't affect much. He was just kind of that the assassin to Palpatine's plan. He was just kind of there to kill. That's all it
You
felt
kind
like.
of get that with his name too, Darth Maul, right?
Yeah,
He is like Maul, like mauling something. He is
yeah.
just like the person that goes out there. He's like
He's the
the
enforcer.
blunt instrument that he
Yeah,
sends out there to do his work. And yeah,
maybe they thought like they need you need to see Palpatine fail with a couple of these before he's able to entice Anakin, and then Anakin becomes
yes,
the
yeah.
guy.
Well, let's dive in then. Like I said, these are both written by Katie Lucas. So she wrote some great episodes based off of her father's characters here.
Is she around anymore?
No, she doesn't do anything for Star Wars anymore. I mean, she's still alive. She doesn't do anything for Star Wars anymore.
That's a shame because I feel like
She wrote some good
I,
stuff.
yeah, but I imagine the relationship between Lucas and Disney would
I,
have been a lot tougher if
yeah,
she was still around.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, like Dave Filoni was very close to Lucas, and I mean
Okay.
he still shows up and goes to like he was on the set for Solo. That was directed by one of his best friends, Ron Howard.
Yeah.
He um was on set for like Mando and Ahsoka. I think he went to the Ahsoka set, but he's been on set for some of this stuff, and he likes visiting. And he was just he was just giving some quotes recently, where he said that while nobody really understands the Force like he does, that was his words. Um, that's what happens when you sell your property and it goes to somebody else. And he was saying that he knows a lot of the people that work on these things, and some of them have really great ideas and good stuff going on. I don't know the full quote, but he was complimentary of some of the stuff. But from what I heard from somebody that used to work with him, Pablo Hidalgo, he's the one that kind of keeps. He's part of the story group that keeps some of this canon stuff and timelines together. He said that George, I think he said George's favorite thing in the post Disney era is Obi-Wan Kenobi show. Yeah, he really liked it.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, I think I think that he's probably the best at I mean, him and I forget the guy that writes Game of Thrones, but I feel like those two really still
George R.
have.
R. Martin.
Yeah, they still have a heavy hand in the storytelling of their stories, where they lean on them for obviously with Game of Thrones it's different because he really is. But I feel like Lucas, I feel like they at least they go to him, they consult with him before they make decisions because it's his idea, it's his baby. But Katie Lucas is only she's 34. It's wild.
Yeah, so she was writing this stuff at like 20
Yeah,
something.
I was like,
Right?
that's nuts. Like that's insane. And then I didn't know that her goddaughter her godfather is Steven Spielberg.
Yeah, because he's close with Spielberg.
That's nuts. That
Could
those
you
two are
imagine
so
that?
close. My
Growing
dad,
up, listening to
yeah,
stories from George Lucas and Steven Spielberg?
yeah. And then who else? It said somebody else. Hold on, let me. Katie Lucas. Somebody else is her god. France. Is it Francis Ford?
Oh, Francis Ford
Coppola?
Coppola. Yeah.
Yeah.
Another legendary director
Right.
who's getting in some hot water with stuff he said.
Yeah. Yeah. No, the other two are very interesting though. Spielberg and George Lucas. Imagine.
Yeah. Yeah, she's wrote a lot of big arcs in this show.
Mm-hmm.
And she writes another big one later on that we'll get to that is pretty huge. Yeah, pretty huge. Anyway, let's get back to Brother Savage Opress. He kind of asks this guy carrying a shipment if he can take him to the spot where the last shipment came, and this is a planet that he's going to go to, where he meets this snake-like creature who is like, "Oh, I'll help you out here." And I don't know if this is something he has collaborated with Maul or if he just does this on his own, but it seems to be that he leads the prey to the hole where they fall down. Maul will eat them, right? And then the snake comes in and is like, oh, I'll eat the leftovers. But when he comes back this time, he sees there are no leftovers because Maul and Savage are having a conversation. And, when he first sees this creature that we will learn is Maul, he keeps asking, is that you, brother? Right? Savage asking him.
It's a. I think he's collaborated with Ka from the Jungle Book.
Yes. Yeah. Is that what you were Googling over there? You're like,
Yes,
you're at
I
the
was like,
snake
"What
name
is his
from the
name?" Because
Jungle
I
Book.
wanted to say Khan, but Khan's the tiger, and I was like, "Okay, I definitely know it's a K, but I couldn't remember the snake's name." But it felt very Ka-like. It was
Yeah.
very or Cheshire cat, like very deceitful.
Um, yeah, the snake said he found Maul this way.
Hmm.
Savage kills the snake, but uh,
Chokes it to death and like breaks its neck. It's
yeah,
like, oh my
Maul
gosh.
Maul is this spider creature. So he says
Yeah.
that next episode he'll say that like he was fueled on the hate right from Obi-Wan Kenobi when he fell down the shaft, and that kept him alive. And I guess somehow somebody or something repaired him, fused him with this lower half that was like this snake droid, almost like a droideka destroyer droid bottom, but with more legs that attached to him, and he was able to scurry around. And he's kind of crazy at this point, right? He's lost his mind. His horns are larger, and he is just like muttering to himself. Um, Savage mentions his legs. And he said, "Stop! He took them from me." And he says, "Who? The Jedi. I must have revenge." And then we see Obi-Wan walk into the chamber with Yoda, and Yoda says, "From the dead, an old enemy has awakened." And Yoda tells Obi-Wan that Maul is alive. We know Obi-Wan guesses Maul, and he's like, "Yes, he's alive." Um, what was your thoughts on having Maul have such a grudge with Kenobi? It kind of adds a different layer to their to the whole thing, doesn't it?
Yeah, especially because he's been festering for years about.
10 years. Yeah.
He's just sitting in this cave for 10 years, going, "I hate that sucker. Like I hate Obi Wan," and just imagining him. He also has beef with Qui Gon, who he's killed. Which come to think of it, it's like I'm assuming he knows he's dead, right? Like I'm assuming he knows Qui Gon died because he'd probably feel it too. But I mean,
Yeah, he said he killed him, so I think
yeah, that's
I
true.
think he knows he did it.
Yeah, but I would think if you're Maul, but I guess you're not gonna come to reason with that. I did kill Qui Gon, so I guess Obi Wan would be pissed. So I guess it's more of that. Well, you can do it, but I can't. Kind of thing. Where you killed my master, so I tried to kill you. I feel like that's it's even, right. We're even now. But yeah, no. Uh, yeah, Maul's been. I will say, Jordan, I did not really care for his antics when Savage was trying to. And I get it, like I get what you're going for, but I'd have much rather have seen Maul more of like just enraged, like not kind of almost like the dude's been on acid or something, where he's just gone mad. That's what it seemed like. But I get what they were going for. That he's been in this cave, he's lost his mind. But
To be fair, like if somebody chopped off my lower half
yeah,
and I survived, I'd probably hate that guy too.
yeah, yeah, no, yeah, that'd be an easy guy to hate, right? But I still don't like that they went with the more mad. Like I would have been more of like enraged, like just breaking things and you
Well, I
know,
think it is like I think it is that, but I think like you said, he's been down there for probably 10 years and he's
yeah,
had nobody to talk to but a snake, so he's probably like
that's true.
lost his mind.
Yeah, it's fine.
They fix his mind though, right? In the
They
next
do.
episode, Revenge, which let me get the synopsis for that one ready here. Oh yeah, the first one for Brothers. Savage Opress continues his quest to find Darth Maul and revenge. Savage and Darth Maul unite to seek revenge against Obi-Wan Kenobi. Revenge starts with Maul muttering Kenobi, and Savage arrives on Dathomir. Mother Talzin arrives, and Savage is like, what happened here? Because during this time, we've had the loss of Dathomir and the Night Sisters from last week. And, he says he is damaged. He doesn't remember much of his old life. Talzin does like this spell on Maul, and it refixes his brain. He's not crazy anymore. But what she also does is turns these like old spare parts into like these nice new robotic legs, so he doesn't have to be a spider creature anymore. And his horns also go back into his head. Makes me wonder, like, do they have to trim those, or is that like or is it only when his mind goes crazy it grows more? Like, that's what I want to. That's what I want to learn. How does the brack horns work?
It's a haircut.
Yeah, exactly. Do you have to like sharpen them? Trim them, anything like that? He says, "My hatred kept my spirit intact." She says, "Arise, Maul, reborn son of Dathomir." So we kind of get this at the same time that we're getting last week. Arise, Ventress, daughter of Dathomir, sister of the night. So we're kind of seeing both these characters reawaken at the same time. They're going to end up on separate sides of the conflict, though, too. That's what's interesting. Is Talzin, right, has helped both Asajj and Maul here, but later in this episode, when these two show down, they're on totally opposite sides. Savage provides Maul's lightsaber. He also mentions that the Force is out of balance, and Savage says, "Yes, the Clone Wars." And we get Maul saying, so it started without me. And of course, this is a reference to Maul was working with Palpatine. He knew what the plan was going to be and what they were setting up. And he realizes now that the plan has continued without him. Maul talks about how he was apprenticed to like the greatest, he's referring to Palpatine. And his idea to get the Jedi's attention is to show up on a planet that looked like Felucia. I don't know if it was. And his plan is like slaughter children and people and just get the Jedi's attention. And he sends a transmission to Obi-Wan, killing innocents. In a cantina, Asajj says that she will handle Savage. They're out there with saying Savage is wanted. She's like, I'll handle it. And when Obi-Wan arrives, he sees this poor astromech droid just like running into a wall constantly, like bumping into a wall. Poor guy. But when he gets there, Maul says, "I've been waiting for you." And Obi-Wan has a little fun with this. And I think he's also testing to see if this is actually Maul or not. But he's like, "I'm not sure I made your acquaintance." Which just really hammers it into Maul. Like, imagine that. Imagine you get your legs chopped off. You're left for 10 years. You've been thinking about this guy nonstop. You show up, and the guy's like, "I'm sorry. Should I remember you?"
Which are you? Who? What? You know how many Siths there are?
How many I've killed?
At this point, right? Jeez.
And then Darth Maul says something, and he's like, so it is you. He mentioned like how he killed his master on Naboo or something, and Obi-Wan's like, so it is you. I've defeated you before. I can defeat you again. Great line by Obi-Wan. But Obi-Wan does lose because Savage and Maul both team up here. And that's when Asajj Ventress arrives, and Maul knocks out Obi-Wan. He's torturing him. Asajj comes in, kind of scares them off, and she wakes up Obi-Wan and gives him one of her lightsabers. So we get to see Obi-Wan with a red-bladed lightsaber fighting back-to-back with Asajj Ventress as they are fighting against Savage Opress and Darth Maul. During this, Asajj is going to lose her lightsaber, and Obi-Wan is able to get his blue one back from Maul, and then's like, "Ventress, here," and like tosses her the other red one. And Maul is like talking smack about killing Qui-Gon, and it kind of becomes this thing where they're trying to jump into the cockpit, right? They get across the room, they get into the cockpit, shut the door. Maul and Savage are trying to break down the blast door here, and Obi-Wan is able to detach the cockpit and they take off. And he says how they'll be after both of us now. All right, that was a lot. Give me your thoughts here on this epic battle between 4 lightsaber wielders here.
I love leading up to it that Yoda mentions that you'll have help, but from an unlikely character. Because like it's going to be Asajj. Like that is ultimately going to come down to that, and it is cool because, like you said, when Mother Taliesin, resurrects, I guess, Maul's prior state before he went cuckoo for bananas. She was able to do that, but also did the same for Asajj, but put Asajj on a different path. Whereas, like, but again, it speaks to like what the Night Sisters are and who they, they're going. They basically look out for what's good for the person in the path that they like to seek forward. And Maul's
Cuckoo
is
for Kenobi.
Cuckoo for Kenobi. Yeah, that's a good one. We should get a shirt for that.
Yes.
And then with just Maul's horns. But yeah, I
That'd be
think
cool.
Yeah, it would be sick, wouldn't it? Patent that. But yeah, I think it's pretty cool that they do that. And then to have Obi-Wan and Asajj, who have been after each other for these, past 4 seasons of the show, all of a sudden they're working together. And then, so you get Asajj, who's one of my favorite Sith, fighting in tandem with Obi-Wan. And Asajj is very Maul-esque. Obi-Wan much more traditional, Savage much more just the brute strength and force. So it was a lot of contrast of styles, but I do feel like Maul and Asajj are very similar just because of the way that they're raised.
And Maul, of course, during this fight is mostly battling Obi-Wan, and Savage is mostly battling Asajj. Because Ventress, let's not forget, is the one that took Savage, put him through hell, right? Brainwashed him to follow the orders, and then try to do this as a plant so that way he would kill Dooku. And that backfired, and they've fought before. So they kind of both have a hatred of one of the people there, and it's very interesting to see how that is working out. Just really interesting to see how that goes. And again, like seeing where Ventress will go from here and all that. We have some great characters getting introduced next week and a character coming back next week that we'll talk about in the other batch of episodes. But anything else about the Maul arc? I know this is probably shorter than the last episode, but it's only 2 episodes. So I was thinking that this would probably be on the shorter side.
Yeah. And it's an introduction back to the character that we have all grown to love/hate. And his role going forward, I know it'll be integral to what happened. But I am interested to kind of see how he interacts with, or if he does interact with different characters. I know Ahsoka would be interesting. Anakin would be interesting because he's not yet met Darth Maul.
He did. He has.
Did he?
Yeah, remember?
That's right.
He tries to kill him.
Right.
When
that's right.
Qui-Gon in episode 1. Yeah,
I forgot about that. I was like, where did he meet him? That's right. He chases him. Yeah. With the speeder bike, right? Is that what he's on? Yeah. So that's a great Yeah, I forgot about that. But I guess because he hasn't.
Because it's a different actor too. So you're like, right. It's sometimes hard to make that Jake Lloyd to Hayden Christensen jump because there's a time gap there. But but he has met him, which is funny. I forget if they interact in this at all, but I would love to see what Anakin's thoughts would be on seeing this guy that he saw at 10 that killed the guy that was going to train him. He killed Qui-Gon. Yeah. And again, Filoni's talked about how the Duel of the Fates in episode 1 is so pivotal to Anakin's fate, right? That's why it's called Duel of the Fates, because while Obi-Wan wins, they kind of lose the Duel of the Fates here because Anakin loses that Qui-Gon mentorship that probably would have put him on a different path where he wouldn't have allowed Palpatine to really become that father figure that then sets Anakin down that path. So really this guy here, Maul, is the guy that has forever changed Anakin's trajectory in the Force. So that is something that's really interesting. I would love to see what type of conversation they would have if they do. I don't remember the next Maul arc, so I can't tell you. But he does come back. We will have Maul at least, I think, one more time in Clone Wars. We get him a couple times in Rebels, and he showed up in Solo as well.
Yeah, yeah. And Qui Gon was much more. He felt very dad to Anakin.
Yes, he was.
Very
Yeah, he was
disciplined.
that. Yeah, and he had the different approach to how to
He
train
did.
people, right? Like
Yeah.
he's
It
been like a
wasn't anger.
maverick. He is somebody
Right.
that will, the other council members are always like, oh, this guy is,
It's an annoyance for the council
yes,
members.
but
Whereas
he
Qui
knew how
Gon
to
was
handle
more
different
like,
people.
yeah,
Yeah,
Qui Gon could deal with annoyance. Qui Gon's like, I see the ability there. I can get past the childlike, and whereas Obi Wan was much more of like, don't do that. And then, but they almost are. They're raised as brothers, right?
yes, exactly.
Whereas
Yeah,
like Qui Gon was much more a father figure because Anakin didn't have the father figure. So
right.
Qui Gon felt very, and
Famously,
yeah,
there was no father, as
right,
Shmi says.
yeah.
All right. So at podawakens for any sort of feedback, podawakens@gmail.com. If you want to send us emails, like and subscribe to us on the video here. Next week, we cover 4 episodes, which are season 5, sorry. Episodes 2, 3, 4, 5. We're skipping episode 1. That'll come up in a couple weeks. But that is the next batch of episodes, season 5, episode 2, episode 3, episode 4, episode 5, where we will meet a character that shows up in film later on down the line. And we also get reintroduced to a character that has been in the Clone Wars and was in an episode a couple weeks ago. So some fun characters there that we will check in on. Yeah. Can't wait to see that next Maul arc. I can't wait to see your thoughts on that as we get to it. And really, season 5 it only takes us like a couple more weeks of recording, and then we're into season 6, and then that's short, and we go into season 7 and we're done. It's crazy. So rate and review us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It helps other people find the show. I don't know when this episode is up right now. I'm kind of lost in the sea of episodes we've recorded already, but maybe the Acolyte's still going on. If so, you can listen to us over there. Otherwise, have a great rest of your week. We'll catch you next time when we talk the next Clone Wars arc.